Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we are ranking every cold damage spell in D&D 5th edition. Anything you'd like to say, Sam?
If we missed any, I tried to encompass all of them. If you can think of any others, like a weird conjure spell or something else, let me know in the comments down below. But otherwise, this should be comprehensive. Anything that can do cold damage.
All right, brr.
Really.
Let's move on to the video. And we're back. Let's kick things off with the an old favorite, absorb elements.
Right into S tier. Absorb elements is fantastic. Just like we talked about in the fire damage video, it sure doesn't do a good job dealing cold damage, but it sure is a great spell to have on your character sheet.
Well, it doesn't, no, not dealing it, but yeah, it absorbs cold damage if that's the damage coming your way, and you can squirt a little bit of it back.
Why are you squirting it?
I don't know.
Okay. That's a relevant question.
Because you've absorbed it. How else do you dish it back out? I mean, when
on your mace bob, on your quarterstaff, you enhance.
I'm thinking like you're like a sponge, and then you. All right.
Sure.
We visualize this spell differently, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think yours is the better way.
Maybe. I know how you cast webs, so.
All right. Next, we have Armor of Agathis.
I'm gonna maybe upset some people. I think this is a D tier spell. I don't think the spell is very good.
I don't think so either. There are some niche use cases for it, some builds that we have here on the channel that have made good use of it, but generally, I think I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah, I think if you're an average warlock, you don't want this. I think you have to be a very specific character, and you can have a fun time building around it. I'm not saying don't build around it. I'm just saying this, for the vast majority of characters, is not going to be where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, does this upcast?
Yeah, it gives you 5 temporary hit points and deals 5 damage on reflect. And then every upcast, it increases that number by 5. So it gives you 25 HP and reflects 25 damage with a 5th level spell slot.
Right. Yeah, and that one build we did, I forget what it was, man. I should really remember these. But yeah, it was really effective. But generally speaking, not so much.
Correct. I think if you're under like 7th level, this is useless, like just actively bad for your spell slot. Once you use 4th or 5th level slots with it, it starts to be okay, but even then there's a lot of caveats as to like its use case. Its pastime is a little bit awkward. There's some issues with Armor of Agathis.
Yeah. All right. Next up, if I've alphabetized these correctly, is Chaos Bolt.
Oh, beautiful garbage. I hate this spell. D tier. This is worst Chromatic Orb, and worst Chromatic Orb doesn't deserve to be any higher than D tier. If you miss, you're really sad. The odds of it jumping, very low. Doesn't do cold damage well, nor does it do chaos well. Disappointing spell. So sad they printed it like this.
And what's the damage we're looking at?
2d8 and a d6.
Or what level spell?
First level spell.
Yeah.
Well, Chromatic Orb is just 3d8. You get to pick. You can always do cold damage with it.
Oh, speaking of Chromatic Orb.
Right into C tier. It is better than Chaos Bolt because it does slightly more damage and will give you what you want.
Yes. All right. No argument there.
It's still like, it's a first level spell, damaging spell that has an attack roll. If it ever misses, you're like, there goes my first level spell slot. And that always feels terrible. That's why I'm not normally a fan of these things.
Yeah. Something you won't have that problem with is Cone of Cold.
I love Cone of Cold. Now it's a 5th level spell doing slightly more than fireball damage. If my math is right. And it's in a way better area. It's in a 60-foot cone. So like the difference between 10d6 and 8d8 is 10d6 is 35 on average, 8d8 is 36 on average. So it's slightly better than fireball damage, which means it scales better than fireball damage. And it's in a, I would argue, better area. It's a different area, but it's not always better. Why is it better? Because it's freaking enormous. 60-foot cone is gigantic. Just lay down a 60-foot cone.
Is it bigger than the 20-foot radius?
Yes.
Okay.
20-foot radius sphere versus, I think. Commenters down below, if you can give me the math behind it. There will be a point in this where it is wider than a fireball, for sure. That's 40-foot radius, or 40-foot diameter. This is a 60-foot diameter at its peak. So it probably is lower area. I don't know. conception in my brain, it's enormous. Maybe I just have this weird biasy where I like things that aren't spheres, like lines and cones. Anyway, this only
At
needs
any
little.
rate, it's a cone. Like position yourself. Actually, you know what? Still a really big area, but I think you might be able to position yourself better to avoid hitting more of your allies.
Yeah, maybe. Notably, you have B and A swapped currently, so you should switch those two around real quick. But
Oh,
I think this is
shucks.
an A tier spell.
Uh,
Yeah, I think it's an A tier spell. This is a
I,
little effect that
I can do that. Good.
nailed it. This is the kind of effect that I am happy taking, especially if I'm tired of using Fireball, and this will do as good a job as Fireball will, and that's high impact, hits big area, hits good damage. I like it.
All right. Yeah, agreed.
One of those few spells where I'm actually happy that it's only damage just because the area is so unique.
All right. Conjure minor elementals.
Super busted S tier spell.
Yes.
Unbelievably busted. Holy cow, this thing's disgusting. Get a bunch
This
of
is
ice
the
methods.
methods are fun.
Methods are busted. They all have breath weapons. They all do cool little things in disguising in your environments. Yeah, oh my goodness, this
And you
spell's
can get a
stupid.
bunch of them, and they explode on death. That's my favorite part.
They're awesome. The spell's awesome. I would recommend playing with the spell like twice before retiring it because it is a really fun time to play with. But oh my god, is it a lot of tracking, a lot of effort, a balance nightmare. It is super fun.
just send all the methods at one guy.
Yeah, definitely have them all use the same initiative. Make sure that you're going immediately after you. There are ways you can save on the hassle.
Yes, and that's so much more satisfying.
Oh,
All right. Next up, we have Dragon's Breath.
I think this is a solid little B tier option. I like it a lot. It's a repeatable Burning Hands that you can have to do cold damage, and you set it up and use it on the turn you set it up, and then every turn after that you can just do that for the encounter. And if you're doing dungeon stuff around below 5th level, that is valuable because this is a thing you're happy to spend your action on in most encounters. It's way better than a cantrip in all those encounters, right? I do think the utility of this becomes obsolete past 5th level. You'd much rather spend your turns casting spells than using this action. But in the low tiers, I like this thing a lot.
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty basic, but cool.
Yeah, repeatable Burning Hands, but cold damage or whatever damage you want.
Elemental Bane.
Oh, F tier garbage.
All right. For our viewers at home, this is a little bit of a trap spell, is it not?
Yeah, so what this does is, I think it's 4th level slot. Yeah, 4th level slot. You pick something, it makes a save. If it passes the save, nothing happens. If it fails the save, nothing happens. But on a future turn, if you were to deal it a damage type, it ignores resistance if it has it, and it takes a bonus damage of that type. So you can pick cold, it does a bonus DA cold damage. You need 12 hits for this thing to justify its cast, and that's just never going to happen. And it all has to be that damage type. It's not like every time it takes damage, it takes the bonus damage. No.
Yeah.
Every time it takes damage of the type, it takes the bonus damage. Turns out cold is also not easy to do in large chunks. At least with Scorching Ray, you can once per turn it kind of easier. Or sorry, not with Scorching Ray. With fire damage, you can get it once per turn somewhat easier because there's more of those. There are not a ton of ice damaging spells that are going to trigger Elemental Bane a lot. Yeah, hot F, garbage. Don't ever put the spell on a character sheet.
There's a Ray of Frost.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
We will.
All right, another elemental spell. This time we have Elemental Weapon.
I think this is D. It's bonus D4 cold damage on hit with a +1 for a 3rd level slot. I don't like it.
No,
as far as buff spells go, concentration is not ideal. It's an hour duration at least.
Yeah, D sounds. I mean, yeah, I mean, looking at the list we have between Chromatic Orb and Elemental Bane feels right.
Yeah. It's definitely not a thing that I think most characters are going to want to put on their sheet. It's hard to spend your concentration on this as a druid or as an artificer or whatever else. And as a person that would be wanting to do the attacks, as a ranger, maybe, but you probably have better options. I think I prefer Hunter's Mark to this most of the time, so that's going to give me a solid D tier.
All right, I think this one's a little bit better. Fire Shield.
I love Fire Shield. This is an easy A to me. Easy A. Druid got it up tier. It used to be a B for me, but Moon Druids with this are sweet. This is you get a fire or an ice shield, which is funny because it's called Fire Shield, but the idea is it's either protecting you against fire or being fire and pushing against people. And the cold shield is cold damage. And every time you take hit damage, they take damage. The key to all of this is it doesn't have concentration stable to it and it lasts 10 minutes. So you can just set it up until they take a bunch of damage, reflect all that damage. Unlike Armor Vagabond, it doesn't go away after 25 damage. It sticks around forever. I'm a huge fan of Fire Shield, especially whenever you've got a boatload of hit points.
Yes.
like moon druids do. It's cool.
All right. Freezing Sphere.
This is an odd duck of a little spell, just because it's like worse fireball, but you kind of have the modality of getting to keep the little sphere for later use, so you can kind of set it like a mine. You get 10d6 cold damage for a 5th or 6th level spell, which is not better than fireball. It's 1d6 worse than fireball, but it also like freezes water in some neat ways. You can opt again to like not fire it, hide it somewhere, then blow it up, detonate it later. So it's kind of like a delayed blast fireball thing going on. I think there's enough neat stuff around it that it justifies the drop in damage, but it's still like always a 6th level spell that mainly just does damage. Seems like a B tier spell to me.
I was thinking A, but
it's worse damage than fireball. It has to be upcast, which I don't love, right?
yes, but it does have the other little bells and whistles that
them
fireball does not have.
Well, like how many times do you want those bells and whistles? How many times are you in water to freeze things in place? How many times do you want to make the little pebble?
Freezing water so much, but all right, the pebble. How long does the pebble last?
It shatters on impact. After 1 minute, it explodes.
Okay, that's not as useful, but
it's kind of where you slip it in somebody's pocket, you leave the bar, and the bar explodes.
Oh yeah, that's something you could do. That's actually pretty good. I was thinking, if you have a prep round, give it to a friend, and you and both have a big attack.
It's got a 60-foot radius area, so it is a very large area. Maybe you talk me up. Maybe
60-foot radius?
Yeah, 60-foot radius is huge.
Jeez Louise, that's enormous.
Yeah.
All right.
It's still mainly just damage. I think mainly just damage at 6th level spell deserves a B still. I don't think it's like that much of a higher impact.
I mean, yeah, I don't know when I've ever had a fight that I needed a 60-foot radius spell.
Like at that point, it's just ghoulish overkill, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you're attacking an oncoming army, that could
for the same reason, I think we probably should move Cone of Cold down into this tier.
Really?
Right, Cone of Cold it has to be upcast. It's not that much better than Fireball, and it's only damage.
I think Cone of Cold should be
B. S, but it's a 3rd level spell that defines the game.
Oh, yeah, it's 3rd level. That's important.
It's way cheaper than these options. And you can cast it as a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th level spell.
Right.
Cone of Cold, you start at 5th. That's 2 levels higher. 2 levels is a lot higher.
Yeah. All right. Well, sorry, Freezing Sphere and Cone of Cold. You just got demoted. All right. Frostbite.
This is a neat little cantrip. I don't know if I overrated it or not. So this is just, it's Vicious Mockery.
Vicious Mockery without the fun.
Yeah. So like it's devoted in my heart.
Yeah,
it's still like a B. It's still like just a cantrip that has a little extra effect, and that's fine. And this is a low tier spell that you cast levels 1, 2, and 3 mainly, right? And at that tier, it's fine.
I mean, if you value, what is it? Disadvantage on what?
Disadvantage on its next weapon attack.
On its next weapon attack. I mean, I think it could be used at higher tiers if you value that effect.
But like, I don't
against a particular enemy.
But at those tiers, you have better ways to give the disadvantage, right? You have paralysis, you've got stuns, you've got unconscious, you've got like even poisoned and frightened to do this better, right? And you have spell slots to use on those effects most of the time. I don't know if I want to spend turns doing this.
Well, and at any rate, I'm not going to try and argue this above a B. I think that was generous enough.
Yeah, B seems fair.
Yeah.
Fire Shield looks odd in A, but I do love that spell. Anyway. We can reconvene all these at the end.
I mean, I think the concentration thing is... What level is Fire Shield?
It's a 4th level spell.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Moving forward, what else we got?
Frost Fingers.
This is a spell that shouldn't exist. This is really worse Burning Hands. It's 2d8 damage and a 15-foot cone for a 1st level spell.
And what's Burning Hands?
Things not being worn or carried, it freezes things.
And what does Burning Hands give you?
3d6 in the same area. Which averages slightly more.
Yeah, that's I guess you can freeze things.
This is like
Guild beer.
Literally a reflavor of an existing spell that sure doesn't need to exist. I want to put this in F out of principle.
Yeah, well, we're not doing this out of principle. On its own merit.
It's unmerited a B. It's a side grade to Burning
Oh, a
Hands.
B.
Fine, a C. It is worse than
C,
Burning Hands.
okay.
That is its competition, right? So fine.
Yeah.
C seems fine. If you really have a compelling reason to want the freezing effect, maybe you take it over Burning Hands. And it is harmless. In low tiers, it does just like kill 2 kobolds still, but
All right. Glyph of Warding.
why do we keep putting this on these lists? The spell doesn't belong here. It can do cold damage, but it can do billions of things. It's a
That's
game
why it's
mechanic
on the
more than a
list.
spell.
You wanted to make the comprehensive list.
I know. This is on me. Like Glyph of Warding, if abused, is really busted, but you're not usually abusing it, and then it's bad. Right? Like, you
Yeah.
can use this to double prep spells for things. Like, you Glyph of Warding and set up an 8-hour duration concentration effect to double up a Death Ward or whatever. That has nothing to do with cold damage.
Or if you're if you're defending a place and if you got the enemies coming at you, you can use the warding part to hurt them, or you can just have a space on the ground where you can step on and get something for yourself.
And that happens ones of times or fewer per campaign.
Yes.
That's where it's like actual issue is most of the time you're the aggressor. Most of the time you're breaking into dungeons, you're kicking in the door, you're killing some monsters. You're not normally fighting off a horde of zombies from your little palace or whatever. I think we should jam this and see. I think the lows on this thing is very low, and I think the highs on it is insanely busted, but it isn't gonna be it's gonna be one of those two things at tables, and it's just gonna be like a figure out with your table if you're doing the munchkin nonsense with it or if you're not using it. Those are really the realities of I think Glyph of Warding.
All right, see, sounds good. Ice Knife.
I like this spell a lot. I've come up on this spell a lot. The gimmicks with Sorcerer, I think, really elevate it to a new level above B. I think this is an A tier spell.
Yeah, because we've covered that sorcerer stuff, I agree with you.
The fact that you can twin it is really cute, and a lot of people like it does area damage though, but the crucial part is you're making one attack roll against a single target.
Yes,
which means it qualifies for twinning, and that makes it really, really good on low tier sorcerers.
And if your two targets are standing next to each other, they're each taking double area damage.
The floor on this also being 2d6 in an area at a better range than Burning Hands means it's so easy to put on wizards. It's so easy for like level 3 and under fights to just be a great area effect cheap damage spell.
So to be clear, without the sorcerer stuff, we're still putting in an A tier.
Yeah, I think this is better than Burning Hands. I've come around to think that. It's like use cases. I think there's going to be more times you're happy casting this than you will be Burning Hands. And then it's really nuts on low tier sorcerers. So
yes. All right, next up we have Ice Storm.
This is just a bad version of a damage spell. So Ice Storm is a 4th level spell that does way under fireball damage and creates a single round of difficult terrain. Hard pass. I don't know if I can call it an F. I think this does something, so I'm going to call it a D.
Yeah.
2d8 cold damage and 46 cold. Or 2d8 bludgeoning, 46 cold.
It multiple damage types. Something worth noting. Probably doesn't matter. But yeah, you can't put this in the same tier as Elemental Bane.
No, it does something. And that something is just less than fireball and other comparable damage effects.
All right. Illusory Dragon.
I love this thing. Illusory Dragon's a big old dragon that repeatedly breath weapon stuff. I think this is an A tier spell. To summon, the reason it's not an S tier is because it's an 8th level spell, and there's a lot cheaper ways to do summon stuff. But it's still going to be a big, splashy, impactful effect that you'll really happily put your concentration into.
Yeah, Illusory Dragon's fun.
Oh yeah, this is the top end illusionist fantasy for sure. Even though it really just is kind of summon dragon. Like it's technically an illusion, but it sure doesn't feel like that whenever it's breathing down your face every turn, 8d8 damage or whatever. 76 damage. Apologies. 70 every round, 76 damage in an area. Oh, delicious.
Yeah, that's big.
Oh, 60 counts every round. That's so good.
Yeah. You're still happy with A tier?
No, we're good. Yeah, A tier is great. It's definitely not S tier. It's an 8th level spell, but it's really cool. I like this spell a lot.
Okay. Investiture of Ice.
This is getting enough.
This is getting enough. All right. What? Remind me.
There's a 6th level spell.
I've only read through the investiture spells once and didn't care.
They're basically vampiric touch for the elements, is how you can conceptualize them, right? So you cast them as an action, they give you a new ability and some passive buffs. It's a 6th level spell. And what it says is you're immune to cold damage, you can move across difficult terrain created by ice or snow without spending extra movement, 10 feet around you is icy and difficult terrain for creatures other than you, and it moves with you. And as an action, you can make a 15-foot cone of freezingness that does 46 damage. Now, you might note, for a second level spell, you can do a 15-foot cone of 3d6 cold damage. So how much do you value 1d6 cold damage and the other stuff? And the answer is you don't at all.
I
And you would
don't
much
know.
rather upcast.
The only time you're using this is when it's going to be really effective, and I think those times exist.
I don't.
No?
I don't think you're spending I don't think you're spending your concentration, a 6th level spell slot, and this to get 46 cold damage or like the immunity to cold damage. You just aren't doing that.
Well, you're getting both.
I don't ever want to spend this action when I have 6th level spell slots. I don't want to cast I don't want to cast Burning Hands whenever I have 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd level spell slots to cast, right?
That's true.
Like, ever. This is just never an action you're taking whenever you're putting up an investiture of ice. I want to like this thing, but it is like Sunbeam. I have a hard time casting, but that is a line area of like repeatable blind with higher damage than this. That's an action that I'm still like, oh, I'm clerics maybe. This is a spell I never see anyone wanting to cast.
All right. Next we have Prismatic Spray.
So this does random damage in the worst way because the randomness isn't really interesting. Like you roll, and then if you roll a 6 or 7, you get a neat effect. If you roll an 8, you can roll twice and get both. And then 1 through 5 is just a random assortment of 10d6 fire damage. So like most of the time, this is just 10d6 fire damage at random for a
fire damage, cold damage, like 10d6 damage.
Yeah.
Of a random type. But that in itself, yes, this is a severe disappointment. Each one of these sprays should have a some kind of condition tacked onto it or something.
Yeah, I would love like 10d6 fire damage and they're ignited taking a d6 fire damage until they put themselves out at the end of their turns.
Right.
Lightning, they can't take reactions for 2 turns or whatever. Like give them a thematic appropriate one. 10d6 poison and they're poisoned until the end of their next turn or something, right? Like give me something that differentiates them, makes me feel like I'm getting a unique effect for the randomness, not just, it takes the same 35 damage. Sure. D. It's not an F. It does something. It's just the thing that it does is the thing that it does is really bad.
Not just bad.
It's not F territory.
Also disappointing.
Yeah.
Because it could be cool. I can't wait to
go back and look at our fire damage video and see how if I put these kinds of spells in the same places. Because we're definitely failing Prismatic Wall, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't like it a lot, but I mean, I think it has value if you can shove things through it.
I don't even know how true comparatively that is, and like you have to jump through so many hoops to make that happen.
All right, like let me present you with something a commenter wrote recently.
Okay.
You use your prismatic wall, you make a sphere.
Sure.
Then you yeet somebody straight up through it, and then they fall back down through it.
Okay. So the problem with that is you're spending your action making the sphere. Someone else has to then yeet them. That's a 2-step process for a 9th level spell that requires someone being able to yeet up the full distance of the sphere in through the wall after succeeding on grappling and all the other thing. So the monster you want to yeet is already around you, already within the sphere. You go first. The monster goes after that conceptually, and then you successfully throw it. And then, through all of those hoops, you facilitated damage.
Yes. But lots of damage, because they go up through the floor, through the ceiling, fall back through the ceiling, through the floor.
I'm entirely unimpressed for a 9th level spell. You could have just done 40d6 fire damage in 3 enormous areas. You could have just stopped time. You could have just granted a wish. And you're telling me that this convoluted 4-step process deserves you this out of F tier? That requires the creature be next to you when you cast this? And then your buddy goes first? Because this is concentration.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's not true. It doesn't have concentration.
No.
All right, fine, commenter, you get a D.
Listen, I just wanted to bring this up because we already did the video on this, and I thought that was a fun thing to talk about.
That is definitely fun. That is a fun way to use a bad spell.
All right, thank you, commenter. We do read these.
You shouldn't have to work that hard for your 9th level spell. That's where I'm at.
All right. Next we have one near and dear to my heart, Ray of Frost.
But every reason action, it's great. I just don't see that happening whenever you get past like 3rd level. But in low tiers, it's solid, fine C option.
Yeah, the
I'm
only
not that
thing that
impressed.
bothers me with it is the range. What is it, 30 feet?
Let me double check, but
Or
it's 30 or 60. 30 would be really disappointing, and that would merit the C tier. It's loading. I don't know why it's taking so long. Oh, there we go. 60-foot range. Okay, it's
60
60
foot?
foot
Yeah.
range.
Yeah, I'd like it to be longer, but yeah, C is fine.
It's enough damage. It has an effect. For a low tier cantrip, I could see it being fine. I probably take this before I take Firebolt, so I guess that could deserve the B.
B?
Like
Oh,
it's a damaging cantrip. If you ever read an action with it, that's pretty good. I don't expect that to happen, but for the first 3 levels, that'll be whatever. You're never casting this like you're never casting any damage cantrip past 3rd level, but it will be fine in those few scenarios in the early game, and I can live with that as my damaging cantrip.
all right. Fair enough. Up next is Rhymes Binding Ice.
S tier. Super, super, super busted spell. The spell
Yeah.
is ridiculously good.
Now, remind
This
me what. Oh, yeah, because this freezes people in place and they have to use an action to free themselves.
Yeah,
Or is
it's
it
a
to free
30.
themselves or to try to free themselves?
So it's a 30-foot cone, so it's already a fantastic area for a 2nd level spell slot that does 3d8 damage, which is as good as Upcast Burning Hands. So
Yeah.
out the gate, the floor on this is a better version of a spell I'm already pretty high on. And then, if it failed to save its frozen ice for a minute, a creature is hindered by the ice has speed reached to 0. It can succeed on the save to no longer be, or takes out damage not being hindered by ice, and it can use its action to break the ice away. So it
Okay.
guarantees eats an action if it fails the saving throw. That's insane. It either can't
Well,
move and you are fine with
yeah,
that because it's not making attacks, or or like melee weapon attacks, or it has to use
right.
actions to break free. And again, the floor is stable to 3d8 cold damage. I'm in. Sign me up. This is just a huge upgrade over most AoE damaging spells for a 2nd level slot.
100% agree. Yeah, this is a good one.
Spells nuts.
All right. Perhaps less good is Snillux Snowball Swarm.
On the opposite end of the spectrum for 2nd level cold damaging spells. This is burning. So this is Burning Hands damage at a 90-foot range in a 5-foot radius sphere. Does this deserve an F?
Uh,
I got deserves a
is
D.
this a second level spell?
2nd level spell. 90-foot range is what I think like hoists this out of F tier, and if it hits 4 things, which it usually won't, it'll usually hit 2 things at most. It'll be fine.
Yeah. All right.
That,
I'll give it an unenthusiastic D.
like it does a if you were looking just for fine damage for a 2nd level spell, this technically qualifies because of the extra range. But
Yeah.
it's going to be worse than almost all its competition, and it's noted as such. It just does something, and F tier spells currently don't do anything. So
Yeah. And I don't like the effect either. It's just goofy.
it feels like
Not.
it was made for a Christmas one shot, and I feel like that's what it
Yeah.
should have been printed in and where it should have stayed.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. All right. Spirit Shroud.
So this is a bonus action setup thing for concentration that gives you it takes a minute. And any attacks you make do those D8 damage when you hit a creature within 10 feet of you, and it deals either necrotic hold or radiant damage. In addition, you reduce creatures that are already close to you speed by 10 feet, which isn't that useful whenever it's like a warlock spell and you're getting your ass beat.
If they're already close to you, then yeah. If they're trying to run away, then it's something. But yeah, if they're trying to run away, then you don't care.
Yeah, the only like world I see this going in a character sheet is like a paladin that can defend the concentration really, really well. But it's still mainly just a bonus D8 damage on hit for a minute, and like the fact that it's so narrow to only be on those melee kind of characters doesn't. Oh, it does scale, so it gives you 2d8 if you get for every slot of 4th level or higher. So on 5th level, using 5th level slots on Warlock, you're doing 3d8 bonus damage on hit. It's still concentration at a really short range on a class that can struggle to defend their concentration. I don't love it.
But it's I don't know. I feel like there are some builds that can get use out of it, and 3d8's not. Yeah, that's pretty decent if you can keep it going.
Like, so bonus action attack twice, that's 68 damage if you connect with both for a 5th level spell slot. That is better than a Divine Smite, right?
Yeah.
That floor is pretty high, but it means you don't have the concentration effect up, but you probably didn't want to anyway if you're doing the melee stuff. Okay, all right. I've been talked up. I think C tier is fine.
Yes. That's what I was thinking.
There's a lot of little hiccups with this thing, but for the characters that really can use it, Seize seems like you don't need that many rounds to get your damage out of it, I don't think. Assuming you
All right.
hit, of course.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good assumption. All right, we got 2 summons back to back. First, we have Summon Draconic Spirit.
I think this only gets A tier because it's one of the better. But it's. I always waffle. I'm like, do I put these in S? Do I put these in A? They're always great. Like, I think this is demonstrably. All the summons are demonstrably worse than Conjure Minor Elementals. What's an unfair bar, right?
Right.
And this thing is really
Oh,
good. It
let's
summons a
compare
dragon.
it to Illusory Dragon.
It's cheaper, so it's better.
Yes.
So S,
Well, all right. How cheap is it?
5th level.
5th level? That's an Illusory Dragon's 8?
Yeah.
That's pretty significant.
It's very
But
significant.
is it comparable?
You get a breath weapon every turn that's only doing 2d6 damage, where the other one's doing 76 damage. It does it scales and gives you more attacks and more hit points, and it makes like multiple attacks that are doing a lot of damage. It does get a lot less HP, or like it functions differently than Illusory Dragon.
Yeah.
It's excellent. The summon spells are always excellent. I think its cost puts it in A tier. Because there are the cheaper options that you're fine enough casting and upscaling that it will be very replaceable. Like if you have the next one, you're not going to need this one. You can just upcast the other one that you have. And then on class like Sorcerer, that matters.
Because the next one is Summon Shadow Spawn.
This one I do think justifies the S.
Okay, me too.
Like what Draconic Spirit has going for it is the dragon's fly speed and can carry you because it's large. And that is really cool. Don't get me wrong. You can do really awesome stuff with that. Shadow Spawn has a lot of build-around potential. It's got fear-related stuff. You got a lot of cool effects that are mingled into it, and it starts at 3rd level. So you're happy casting it as a 3rd level spell, a 4th level spell, a 6th level spell, an 8th level spell. It's always going to feel great on those tiers. And it comes out so much earlier. There's a lot of build-around potential. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, and I value a fear-type effect more than I do being able to ride a flying dragon. I can't believe I just said that. In the game, yes. In real life, probably not.
That's fair. Quick commenter. If you go look at our Summon Draconic Spirit article, because Bob has a great meme that I just now am seeing for the first time in my entire life, having read this, and it's got the druid with the pet dragon that says, "Now let's send your dog take a shit on my lawn."
Yes. I remember that one.
That one got me.
All right.
Tangent aside, Shadow Spawn's excellent. I think it is better enough than Draconic Spirit that it probably deserves to be that different.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, last but perhaps not least, Wall of Ice.
I mean, not technically least.
Not least.
Okay, so this thing is a 6th level spell. It makes a wall. The wall spells I'm all very lukewarm on because they're like, it's hard to do a lot of proactive stuff when you're making a big thing that you have to get things to come through. And they're like, if they fly around it, if the space doesn't work with it, it's hard to like put this around yourself and expecting results out of that. Things that are in the space take a bunch of damage though. So like you're getting 10d6 damage in a line-ish when you cast it. And then the wall has the wall effect. So like they can break it, but if they go through it, they take more damage. It's a lot of hoops. It is neat. Does it escape C tier? I don't think it escapes C tier.
I don't think it escapes. I thought C tier might be generous.
Yeah, you may be right. Maybe this is a D.
I'm gonna
first symmetry. Let's put it in C.
Yeah, because I don't want to. We're running out of room in the D's.
Yeah,
and it feels like it's an inoffensive C. I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's an inoffensive C. I think. Like, it's man, 6th level spells are just really expensive. But this does give you damage when you cast it and a wall that you can interact with after that. And that's kind of what you need out of a wall for it to be worth casting, and it meets that bar, and that's fine.
Okay. All right.
Want to move anything around?
Me?
Yeah, does this all look good to you?
I'm
thinking... Yeah, Frostbite I do right about rare, like slightly better than Ray of Frost, but not like a whole tier better.
What about Ice Storm? What level was that?
4. Is it just fine? Like it is.
I was thinking a 4th level Ice Storm. I think I value over a 6th level Wall of Ice.
I don't.
No.
4th level Ice Storm it's just so bad damage wise, and it's a small area of difficult terrain. Like I rate that close to nothing. Wall of Ice is at least like it does something demonstrably different than just damage, whereas Ice Storm is just mainly damage, and then you're sad that the damage outcome isn't that high,
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
right? So I
What
do
were
think
you
Wall of
looking
Ice
at?
is better. I'm thinking like the A tier looks like Fire Shield and A does look weird to me. I don't think it's a spell that everyone can use that well. I wouldn't like jam that on any sheet that can get it. On the sheets
Was
that
that
it's even good on, those are still kind of narrow, and the damage is pretty low. It's probably a B. I like the spell more than it probably deserves as far as
okay?
power goes. I don't think it necessarily deserves the A.
Bye, Fire Shield. Man, we've bumped down 3 A's to B's.
I feel happy with that. I think
All right,
they deserve it. Yeah, I like
losers.
this tier.
All
Commoners,
right.
where are we at? How do you feel about this tier ranking? Are you super into it, super against it? Am I like wildly off on things? Or are you just gonna make fun of Bob for his 2 billion tabs? Whatever you want to do in the comments down below, let me know.
Hey, those tabs are not going to be visible in the video. I
My
cover those.
apologies.
Oh, all right, that's it. This has been cold damage spells. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.